Hello everybody, in today's video we're going to be going over some severe storms which are going to be moving throughout parts of the southeast and the Tennessee Valley for the next couple of days. We already have a slight risk out for today, tomorrow, and also for Monday into Tuesday. So we have multiple days where we're expecting some major severe weather over these areas. I think especially for Tuesday is when we're going to see the height of the severe weather over parts of the southeast. So we're going to be going over a lot of information in today's video, so make sure you are staying tuned all the way until the end. Here's what your current National Weather Service page looks like. You can see some wind advisories in parts of Montana, California, and also a little bit of New Mexico and Texas. You can also see some high wind warnings in effect for parts of Texas and New Mexico, with some red flag warnings scattered throughout parts of the southwestern United States. We have winter weather advisories and winter storm warnings in effect for parts of Colorado and Wyoming for a little bit of snowfall. And then we have some flood watches in effect along the central Gulf Coast from Texas to parts of Alabama and Mississippi. Yesterday we had a high temperature in Death Valley, California, where they got to 170 degrees Fahrenheit. And we had a low temperature in Mount Washington, New Hampshire, where they got down to 18 degrees Fahrenheit. The highest precipitation or rainfall report was in Victoria Regional Airport in Texas, where they got 6.48 inches of rainfall, and there were no snowfall reports yesterday. Here's what the current radar looks like, and this is not even the most intense of the upcoming severe weather outbreaks. This is actually just the first of three different storms that are going to be heading over pretty much the same area. So you can see a couple bands of heavier rainfall, one over southeastern Louisiana, another one back through eastern Texas and some of the surrounding areas, and then more just steady rainfall into Mississippi, northern Louisiana, and southeastern Arkansas. So a fairly dynamic type of system. We have a couple areas of more heavy rainfall with even a little bit of thunder and lightning mixed in, maybe even a little bit of hail. But overall, these are not too severe or intense bands of rainfall. Here's what the Storm Prediction Center shows for today, and you can see we have a slight risk out over that same area in parts of Louisiana, Arkansas, Mississippi, and Alabama, as well as another area for Kansas, Colorado, and a little bit of Nebraska there. So those are the areas that we have a slight risk out for today. Here's for tomorrow, and you can see that for areas from Oklahoma all the way to Ohio, Indiana, and Kentucky, we have some slight risk in effect. I wouldn't even be surprised if, especially over this area, they do add maybe an enhanced risk of severe weather for tomorrow. They might issue that maybe later today or tomorrow morning, but we'll have to see. It all depends on what the upcoming NAM model runs do and what some of the other high resolution models end up doing with this event. And then if we look at the day 3 outlook, you can see that we have a marginal risk which goes from parts of upstate New York, Pennsylvania, and Ohio all the way down to the Gulf Coast, and then we have a slight risk over parts of the southeast again for parts of Kentucky, Tennessee, Georgia, Alabama, Mississippi, Louisiana, and a little bit of Arkansas as well. We have a slight risk out, and that would be for Tuesday. So here's what the NAM model is showing for this second event. So the first event is what we just showed you on radar. It's going to be moving to the east over the next couple of hours. Maybe a couple of severe bands of rainfall, but it's not looking too impressive just yet. So going over to the next one, you can see we have an upper level low, which is right over here, and that's going to be pushing its way to the northeast. And as it does that, it's going to be bringing a lot more moisture. And by the way, this second system is going to actually be very important to what happens with the third system, because this first or the second low pressure is going to move to the north, and with that, all that warm and humid air is going to come out further to the south of there. So it's just bringing in a lot of warm, moist, and really convective air into the southeastern and Tennessee Valley region. And as it does that, it's really bringing in a lot more potential for storms, especially on Tuesday. So this is by later today. Not too much convective activity just yet. We see maybe a few weaker storms into parts of the Tennessee Valley, but again, really not too intense as of this point. And again, the second one, it doesn't look too intense. I think it's going to be that third final one for Tuesday, as this one pulls away to the north, and as we get more of the ripe ingredients for for parts of the southeast. It does look like that's going to be when we're going to get the most of the severe weather. So this is by early on Monday morning, and then you do see a little bit more in the way of convective activity as we get to Monday, right around 7 or 8 o'clock in the morning. And that's when we start to get a few thunderstorms popping up over parts of Tennessee and Kentucky. But overall, it looks like if you live over much of the Tennessee Valley, the Ohio Valley, even into the Mid-Atlantic and Northeast, mainly just a steady rain for early on Monday that could cause a little bit of issues as you're commuting to work or school on Monday. And then it clears out for many of these areas by Monday early afternoon. And then the main threat is pretty much all said and done with. Here to be for the next storm. And this is, again, going to be the one that's going to be more impressive and more intense, and what we really want to pay attention to a lot more. So here's that line of storms back here. Something that's going to be very crucial is that we have a lot of energy and also just humid, warm air out ahead of this. So we're going to have dew points around 75 degrees with temperatures that are going to be approaching the upper 80s into the 90s over some of these areas. So really, really warm temperatures. And we also have Cape values that are going to be between 2,000 and 4,000. So all of that coming together is going to allow these storms to really just flourish over these areas. So you can see that line of storms through parts of Texas, Oklahoma, Arkansas, and Missouri. As we continue this forward, here to be by Tuesday morning, as this is around 3 or 4 in the morning, we're dealing with a little bit of a hook right there in Kentucky and Tennessee. We'll have to see how true that is depending on what the other models are showing, but most of the other models, including the NAM 12K model, is quite similar to what this RGM model is showing. So there isn't too much discrepancy within the models. It does really start to ramp up as we get to the early afternoon. So this is around 1 or 2 in the afternoon on Tuesday, and we're dealing with a line of storms back through Louisiana, a few scattered storms also to the north into parts of the southeast and into the Tennessee Valley as well. You can see more of those individualized type of storms scattered throughout the southeast, and that's just going to be a side effect of having so much energy and instability in the atmosphere. It really just needs to let go of all of that energy, and it's going to do that in the form of pop-up thunderstorms, and then eventually one big line of storms that'll pretty much knock out all the energy from the atmosphere. So it's going to be a multi-round type of event. This would be by the later afternoon, so around 4 or 5 p.m., and we have in Mississippi and Louisiana more of those storms starting to get a little bit more intense. Still some pop-up storms into the Tennessee Valley and the southeast. And as we continue this forward a little bit more, you can start to see more of a line of storms developing. So this is around 7 or 8 o'clock at night on Tuesday, and we have that line of storms going from New Orleans all the way up to just east of Nashville, and that's going to be generally where that line of storms sets up. This, as it continues to head further to the east, will knock down the temperatures behind it and also the dew points. So you will have a much more comfortable atmosphere as this line of storms does pass on, and then this would be by right around 10 or 11 o'clock at night on Tuesday, and we're still dealing with that line of storms heading through Alabama into Georgia and then into Tennessee. I think as it hits the Appalachians over parts of Georgia and the Carolinas and Virginia, I think that's when it's going to really weaken, and as it's heading over to that more hilly terrain, it really can break up some of those thunderstorms, and I think that is going to happen because as you go to the next frame, you can see how as soon as it passes the Appalachians, it really does break up. So I think as it's passing those 4,000, 5,000 peak elevations in parts of Tennessee, North Carolina, Georgia, I think it is going to break up after that, and then you just get more of those pop-up storms, leftover storms on the back end into the Carolinas and northeastern Georgia, but even those don't look to be as severe as what we were dealing with further to the west. Here's the total precipitation over the next about 3 to 4 days, and you can see that through Thursday morning, we're going to see totals of rainfall over 2 inches over pretty much this entire area in the orange and red. And as you get into the dark red, that's where you're getting 4 or more inches of rainfall. So you can see them over some of these pockets in parts of Georgia, Alabama, Tennessee, even into parts of Mississippi. So wherever these storms do start to train over the same areas, and as they start to kind of just develop over some of those similar areas that were already affected, that's the area that's going to see see the most rainfall, and that's going to really add up on those rainfall totals. Here's the amount of CAPE in the atmosphere by Monday night into Tuesday morning, and you can see that we have CAPE values, especially out further to the west, that are going to be over 4,000 in a fairly widespread area, and even further to the east, we have CAPE values that are between 2,500 and 1,000 CAPE, so well above what you would need to get a typical thunderstorm. And then if we look at Tuesday night, we still have some CAPE in the atmosphere, especially over parts of Georgia, the Carolinas, Florida, even through parts of Alabama, Tennessee, and Mississippi. We still have CAPE values that are 1,000 to 2,000 in a lot of these areas. And then also, looking at a couple other ingredients, here's the high temperatures on a Tuesday, and you can see again those 80s, the upper 80s for the coastal southeast, and also along the Gulf Coast, where we have those very warm temperatures. Even as you head through the Tennessee Valley, we still have temperatures that are going to be approaching the 80-degree mark, which is going to really help bring up the chances of those thunderstorms. So no real challenge in getting the CAPE values. We have enough energy in the atmosphere, we have enough warm temperatures, and that's really not going to be the issue. We have dew points also that are going to be solidly into the 70s, so you can see that we're having dew points well above 70 degrees over the entire southeast for the most part. This entire screen has dew points for the most part above 65 or 70, and this would be for Monday night into Tuesday morning, and then here would be by Tuesday night into Wednesday morning. Still dew points over 70 for a lot of these areas, so the entire area that's going to be affected by this has dew points that are above about 67, 68 degrees. So even if you're at just 67 or 68 degrees, that's well above the dew points that are necessary. And that's pretty much just going to wrap it up. But you can see how the ingredients are really coming together with this type of event, especially what we've been seeing on the simulated radar forecast from some of these models. It does look quite impressive as to what we could potentially be seeing in this type of scenario. So I will keep you updated. I'll probably have another couple of videos on this event, maybe just one or two, and then we'll go on to, of course, whatever other severe weather events are in the forecast. That is going to wrap it up for today's video. Please consider liking the video, subscribing, and turning on notifications, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Goodbye.